or maybe just raping and killing them.
And you don't think that's likely to happen?
There were, in 2006, 115 incidents of strangers abducting kids, and 40% of them, unfortunately, were killed. But we're talking about 50 children in a country of 300 million people, including 75 million children, and that turns out to be 1 in 1.5 million. And if you live your life worrying about 1 in 1.5 million chances, which people do, you really can't do anything.
Want to be scared? The chances that something will kill your school-age kid this year are 1 in 3,000. Here are the causes and the probabilities, and there's very few you can do anything about. I mean, drive carefully, teach your kids to swim, don't give your kids loaded guns, even put a fucking tinfoil suit on your kid before you even start worrying about strangers.
Sometimes weird, horrible things happen, but they're so rare you can't live your life thinking that that's what's going to happen, and therefore you better not do anything.
Easy for you to say. It's not like you've endangered your kid. Wait a second. Is that your kid?
My name is Izzy Skenazy.
That's right. Lenore is an uproar in New York, but she named her kid Izzy Skenazy. I know. My kids are Moxie Crime Fighter Gillette and Zoltan Penn Gillette. People act like their fucking house is on fire when you give your kid a truly great name, like Izzy Skenazy. Lenore also created an uproar when she let Izzy ride the subway by himself.
Izzy's the kind of kid who's very curious. He wanted to go by himself on public transportation. I figured, okay, he was 9 at the time, now he's just turned 10. I said, sure, let's do it. So I took him to Bloomingdale, and then finally I said, okay, Izzy, now's the time. And I went one way, and he, thank God, found his way the other way to the subway.
Fuck God! Thank Izzy. This is not actual footage of Izzy's Odyssey. He recreated it for us. He was probably safer on his own without our skeevy camera crew in tow. So what happened that day when Izzy's mom left him in Bloomingdale's? Did he stink pretty from a perfume sample? Did he make it home safely on the train? Did anyone bother him? We'll come back in a bit to find out.
Here's a hint. In the entire U.S., 115 kids were abducted by strangers. That same year, a study at Georgetown University reported 635 credible episodes of abuse by Catholic priests and deacons. And calm down. We're not just picking on Catholics. Many other denominations have numbers as high or higher than the number of stranger abductions. We don't know how many of these victims were kids, but one thing is clear. The park or the subway are a lot safer than church. Aren't they, Teller? Okay, cut it out. Let's check back in with our lab rats.
Did your mom make you throw food away if it fell on the floor? Well, oops. Yep, the floor is not floory enough for our experiment, so we dropped his sandwich on a freeway overpass. Oh, and fuck that 5-second rule, kid. You let it sit there for a full 5 minutes.
There is at least some degree of truth to that in the fact that food can be suspended when it falls on the floor. There's no truth to the matter of how long it can be there. So the typical kitchen floor in your own household. If the food falls on the floor there, chances are your child's not going to get sick. Now, is there a potential possibility? Sure. But the likelihood of that is very small.
Okay, rat. Feel like you're going to puke your brains out? Nice job, ratty boy.
No matter how much we even talk about some of these myths that are out there, you'll still get a very large percentage of the population that doesn't believe that they're untrue. It's just so ingrained in our own learning growing up that we can't possibly fathom that that's not true.
Talking about the risks posed by strangers can seem very abstract. It's not that abstract if you're that 1 in 1.5 billion.
Honestly, I think this world is a lot scarier than I think as parents we want to believe. Hi, I'm Erin Runyon. My daughter Samantha Runyon was kidnapped in July of 2002 by a stranger. She was found molested and murdered less than 24 hours later. My husband and I were both at work. My mom was home with the kids. Samantha's best friend had waited for her on the couch, and when Samantha was done with dinner, she asked if they could continue to play. They took their game outside. The predator did the exact same thing that is so common. He used the puppy line. So he said, you know, I need help finding my lost chihuahua. Will you help me find him? And Samantha asked how big it is, apparently. And at that point, he ran toward her, grabbed her. She kicked and screamed. And so I got the phone call when I checked my voicemail on my way to my car, I had 8 voicemail messages on my mobile phone. And so I just had to try and keep it together and try not to crash on my way home, and stay as hopeful as I possibly could that this was all wrong. There are no words to describe the absolute panic that your child is terrified and in pain and may never come home. It was the scariest thing one can imagine.
Samantha Runyon was killed 11 days shy of her 6th birthday. Her killer was convicted and is now on death row in California. Aaron Runyon founded the Joyful Child Foundation in Samantha's honor. Its goal is to protect children from sexual abuse and abduction.
We, as parents, I'm all for us being paranoid. It's our kids that we don't need to push that paranoia onto. It's ours. It's our responsibility to protect our kids, not our children. They don't need to worry about strangers. We do. We need to stop focusing on stranger danger. We need to stop focusing on the tiniest pieces of the issue and really look at overall how is society protecting its children.
Well, what did she say?
The problem with stranger danger is that it addresses just a tiny percent of the problem. The vast majority of both abduction and sexual assault, over 95% of the time, it is someone that the child and the family knows and trusts.
So we shouldn't be teaching our kids to be afraid of strangers?
You know, we don't need to frame this as though the boogeyman is really out there and he's going to get you. That's not conducive. Children don't respond well to fear.
So then, what should parents be telling their kids?
I would say that my best advice to parents is to use the bathing suit example. Talk about inappropriate touching, and make sure that your child knows that you will love them no matter what. And that if anybody ever touches them, hurts them, tickles them, or in the area that their bathing suit covers or their underwear, to tell you. You can keep it.
Aaron Runyon has experienced the worst thing anyone can possibly imagine. And yet she's still coming at this from a rational, statistics-based point of view. It's astonishingly brave and humbling. We don't think he could do it. So most of the time, stranger danger is a little like our worried about swimming after you eat or getting sick from a cold.
Kids need their freedom. At some point, they're going to have to take care of themselves. So it's better to start empowering them and giving them the confidence that they can handle that and that they can handle their world than to make them so afraid that it's just an evil place.
And what about Izzy, the kid whose mom let him take the subway alone in New York at 9 years old? Poor Izzy must have been scared shitless. Sorry, Ms. Canesi, I mean poopless.
I knew I was ready for this because what we love Manhattan and like the transportation and the buses and the trains.
Tell us about your trip, Izzy Skenazy.
So I got on the downtown train and I knew the street that he lived on. Got up there and then we took the crosstown bus.
Cool, but you probably wished your mom was with you.
I was very happy that I got to go by myself without my mom. Because with my mom, it makes me feel tiny, like I'm a regular baby.
And how did the world find out about this?
I wonder if this would be something interesting for people to read about. Me letting my son take public transportation home, and apparently it was bizarrely interesting to the entire world.